It's been 3 years since the Taliban seized control of Afghanistan, and at a Bagram Airbase, once the center of America's war to unseat the Taliban and topple al-Qaeda, the Taliban held a parade showcasing abandoned U.S. and NATO military hardware. For more, Margaret Brennan joins us now, and CBS News chief foreign affairs correspondent and moderator of Face the Nation. Margaret, before we get started, I want to play some of the sound from your interview with former CENTCOM Commander Frank McKenzie just this Sunday on Face the Nation. Obviously, you know that he used to command U.S. forces in the Middle East. Let's take a listen.
August 15th is the anniversary of the Taliban seizing control of Afghanistan a few years ago. I wonder what you think about U.S. security currently.
Well, I think about it a lot, Margaret. And 3 years on, our ability to see inside Afghanistan is quite limited. The violent extremist organizations characterized by ISIS-K and other groups, we believe they're actually expanding. They carried out a successful attack in Russia a few months ago. I am concerned about the growth of those organizations, and I'm concerned about the relative lack of our ability to see what they're doing and act against them should it prove necessary to do so. So I think we're in a weaker state now than we were a year ago or 2 years ago, and I'm concerned about the future.
So, Margaret, if you could just help explain to our viewers what has transpired in these last 3 years and why this grim assessment from General McKenzie.
Well, we should say that General McKenzie opposed the U.S. exit back in 2021, though he executed it at the order of President Biden on the plan negotiated by then President Trump. But one of the main reasons is exactly what he's detailing there. The United States has lost much of its intelligence collection ability because it no longer has the physical presence diplomatically or through, actual military bases and intelligence presence on the ground. They haven't been able to replicate that. And since that time, we have seen ISIS-K really emanate out of Afghanistan, becoming really a global terror threat. That is of deep concern to the United States, to the point where some critics of the administration are now arguing the United States should help the Taliban, our old adversaries, fight ISIS-K in Afghanistan. That's the sort of topsy-turvy world in which we are right now. We also see the Taliban, which is effectively the government of Afghanistan, though not officially recognized as such, building relationships with America's adversaries in Russia and in China, and that is deeply troubling on a national security basis. Much of the work that was done over the 2 decades of U.S. involvement has also been erased on the social and political front, Jerika, and that is also tough for a lot of American service people, but also the diplomats and aid workers who put in so many years to try to shore up things, including women.
Yeah, so much money spent, so many lives lost. As you know, that this month, August 30th, will mark 3 years since the last U.S. service members officially left Afghanistan. Over the United States, 2 decades war, the longest American war in history. There were countless Afghan citizens that assisted the U.S. military. Some of them were able to leave the country, but there are others that are still stuck in limbo. What is the latest on the U.S. efforts to resettle those people?
Well, this, Jerika, is one of the toughest things to swallow about the way the U.S. exited Afghanistan, because the refugee programs in the United States had really been changed in a way that was harmful to quickly getting special immigrant visas, these SIVs, as they call them, put in place. The Biden administration says they had to play last-minute catch-up. People were left behind, people who worked alongside the United States, Afghans who either worked for or alongside U.S. Officials and efforts. And many of them fear for their lives. We asked the State Department for an update on the numbers, and they say at this point they have 55,000 applications still pending from Afghans who are seeking those SIVs, those special immigrant visas. And many fear for their lives if they're in Afghanistan. Some of them have also, Jerika, been separated from family members. There were children left behind, parents who left, families pulled apart. I've spoken to some of the diplomats who were trying to reunite children with parents. This was really such a chaotic way beyond the pictures that continues to have impact for Afghans, many of them scattered around. And it's also become a political flashpoint here in the United States. Congress has set a cap on the number of visas allowed. And so they need an act of Congress to allow more, to raise that. That's politically controversial. Senators like Amy Klobuchar pushing for an Afghan Adjustment Act, some way to address this. The program itself expires in 2026. And Donald Trump, who very well may win the presidency and take office in January, could put in place what he has promised as a ban on all refugees. I asked J.D. Vance, the senator who's running as a possible vice president, whether they'd apply that ban to Afghans, some of whom fought alongside Americans. And he kind of split the difference, saying both some should get help, but maybe they shouldn't come here and they have to be properly vetted. So it's not clear what will happen to all of them and if the Biden administration can get all 55,000 out of Afghanistan in the next 5 months. Yeah, that's a lot of people. And we know that conditions for women in particular have changed drastically since the U.S. pulled out. But I want to turn to another topic that we're constantly talking about, and this is the threat that Israel is facing, not just with Hamas, but also Iran. You know that there have been talks and constant negotiations. Do you think that the diplomacy so far that you're seeing is succeeding in sort of stalling a potential much larger attack than we've seen thus far? The word you just used, stalling, is basically it. They are delaying. That is really the U.S. strategy here, to try to restrain Hezbollah and Iran from retaliating against Israel for assassinating a leader of Hamas and a leader of Hezbollah, and doing so in a fairly embarrassing way for the government of Iran. So that retaliation is viewed still as somewhat inevitable, but shaping just how large it could be is where the diplomats have been focused on one front to try to stop that from becoming a regional war that would draw in U.S. troops, because Israel couldn't win a war, finish a war against Hezbollah in Lebanon, who's extremely well armed, without American help. So that's one conflict they're looking at. In terms of Hamas and this ceasefire effort that Ramey was telling you about, that's kind of the centerpiece of the Biden strategy right now. And so American diplomats have essentially bought time. The talks are happening today, tomorrow. They may spill into the weekend. And during that time, my sources say they do not expect Iran to carry out an attack. But once we get into the weekend, it is not clear. Hezbollah may go it alone from the north. They could do so in coordination from the east with Iran. That remains to be seen. But there's a very big effort on the part of the Biden administration to bring forward a ceasefire and hostage release sometime in the next 2 weeks. Yeah, and we know you'll be following that for us and covering it all. Make sure you tune in to Face the Nation. Margaret Brennan, thank you so much for your time. Thank you.